Hey there, Michael Church, Crawl Space Ninja. Today I have a great guest with me. It's Todd Jackson from Carbon Guard USA. And you know, not all carbon fiber straps are created equal. There's a lot of different carbon fiber straps out there that are utilized to fix bowing basement walls, whether they're bowing, shearing, or tipping. And Todd goes into great detail exactly what makes Carbon Guard a great DIY project to make sure that your walls are protected. So if you're doing basement waterproofing and you notice that you have interior wall problems, whether they're concrete, brick, or block, Carbon Guard is a great solution. So before I get into it though, I wanted to share with you all, if you have a need to reach out to Crawl Space Ninja to do a private consultation, we're making that available now with AJ and myself. You go to buymeacoffee.com and I'll put a link in the description of this video. Also, we've got Crawl Space Repair Myths Busted book available there in a PDF format or in Spanish, and you can pick up an autographed copy there, or you can get the regular book or the audio book available at amazon.com. But please stay tuned to the end of the video because I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about the different types of bowing basement wall problems and how Carbon Guard can fix those problems and how you can get access to Carbon Guard to do it as a DIY project. So without further ado, let's hear what Todd Jackson has to say about the importance of anchoring carbon fiber straps. Take it away, Todd.
In fact, I'm spending a lot of time on anchoring. When we were testing down at the University of Miami for ICC on one product, International Code Council, what we found is that anchoring the composites, the carbon fiber, is very important than simply just surface mounted. And the reason for that is on commercial projects, an engineer will cut down the strength of the carbon by about 60% for just surface mounted. So we're concentrating a whole lot on anchoring systems, which is very important. If you use the anchoring system, the composite won't slip, and you can now design for 100% loading of the actual carbon.
Well, and we're going to be discussing a lot today, but real quick, you mentioned anchors a couple of times. And if you could, let's focus on residential. I mean, not that we're going to obviously have people possibly on the commercial side watching this as well, but
sure.
Give us an example of what you mean by an anchor in a residential situation. So if we're talking about a bowing basement wall, a non-anchored carbon fiber versus an anchor, could you share that with us just to...
Yeah, typically, as you can probably see back here a little bit, this is your actual carbon fiber, and that's laminated typically with an epoxy to the actual wall or substrate. And then we're anchoring at the top and we're anchoring at the bottom. The bottom anchor, can you see this?
Right there. Yep. Raise it up just a little bit.
Yep. This will go on the bottom and the carbon will come under that. And this is our shear plate. And this shear plate prevents any type of shearing. And then the fabric wraps around everything like that. At the top, we have, I don't know.
Yeah, there it is. That's perfect.
At the top, we've also got a carbon anchor, and that goes in with the legs, and then the carbon then pulls down over the top of that. That allows us to anchor at the top. So we're going to be totally anchored at the top and the bottom, which is very important because this is be a shear preventative and will anchor to the building itself. So basically, you're doing the same thing as a steel I-beam, but you're much stiffer with the carbon, and you're going to transfer load to the top and the bottom very quickly.
Well, that's a good point. Imagine if I was in the steel I-beam only business and I only attached the steel I-beam to the block wall or the CMU or the concrete without anchoring it at the sill plate or below the slab, right? I mean, that's basically the analogy here is your carbon fiber. And Carbon Guard, correct me if I'm wrong, it can obviously be used by commercial folks in the industry, but it's also designed as a DIY product. You guys are kind of leaning heavy into that as well. Is that correct? So somebody could get this and do this at their own home.
Is that right?
It can, yes.
Yeah. So with this, you do obviously need some tools, which we have available on our DIY store to install your carbon guard properly. There's a jig which which gives the person the ability to drill down into the footer and all that. And we have an installation video on the DIY store. But this is a very fantastic product for a DIYer to be able to do that bracing at the top and the bottom of the carbon fiber. And you said, correct me if I'm wrong, how much of a percentage more strong is it with those anchors versus without?
You can design for 100% loading of whatever the strength of your carbon is at 270,000 psi, as opposed to if just surface mounted. They'll usually design to about 60% for a safety factor. So, and that's why all carbon should be anchored whenever possible.
And if you don't mind, we didn't see the jig. So if you had it there in your hands and you want to put it in front of the camera, that'd be fantastic. So
there's going to be the bottom jig that's going to go directly on.
Raise it up just a little bit more for me. I'm sorry, Todd. There you go. There you go. Perfect.
That's your bottom jig. Basically, this is going to be sold. It's sold in a starter kit.
Right.
So once we have all of this, you'll be able to, at that point in time, have everything that you need. So we've got the dead jig, and then we've got our drill bit that will go into the jig. And
so the jig is designed to guide the drill bit into the footer. Is that correct?
That is correct. And you're typically on a 15-degree angle. And that gets you started into the floor and then into the wall itself. Very good. So we've got that. And then, of course, the dispensing gun for the epoxy, which is a 2-component epoxy.
So we don't need to get into,
all of that.
Well, no, I think it's great information, but I guess what I was going to say to the viewers is we're going to have the installation video on the DIY store. So, but I appreciate you showing us these tools, because someone needs to know that you just don't buy the carbon guard without the tools. You got to have both, right? It just makes it, easier, more effective for a DIYer to install these things. So very good. Thank you, Todd, for sharing that information.
Well, that was some great information from Todd, and I just want to thank him for being on our channel today. And I just want to go over real quick, in case you're not familiar with the different problems that happen on basement walls. You've got bowing, which many people probably experience more often than any of the others. You've got where the wall actually bows in the middle. It doesn't have to actually bow in the center. It can bow down here or up here, but that's where the soil and the hydrostatic pressure is pushing against the wall, and it's causing a bow. Then you have shearing, which is where the wall is moving at the bottom, as you can see in this photo here. And then you have tipping, where the wall is pulling away from the top. Now, what Todd was going over with the anchoring system that Carbon Guard has is, if you just go with a carbon fiber strap that doesn't have an anchoring system, usually they're only addressing the bowing section of the wall and cannot properly address shearing and tipping. So make sure that you use Carbon Guard with the anchoring system, or another type of carbon fiber that will anchor the carbon. If you don't have an anchoring system, you're solely relying on the epoxy, because if you fix the bowing problem, there's nothing to say that it can't shear or tip in the future. And if you need to get access to the Carbon Guard, it comes in 6 and 24 strap kits available for you at supply.crawlspaceninja.com. And of course, if you go there, you can check out all of our products that we have available. The Ninja Dry Pro 70. I just spoke to a couple in Alabama that installed the Ninja Dry Pro 70, and within a weekend, their crawl space was, the humidity levels were normal, and she even said that they were experiencing less of an indoor air pollution issue after installing the Ninja Dry Pro 70, because a lot of people don't realize that humidity can create indoor air pollution. I am Michael Church with Crawl Space Ninja. We hope you make it a happy and blessed day, and we'll see you later.